Careful.
House burning down. Don't burn yourself.
Don't burn yourself.
Unbelievable.
Jeez, just can't do anything right.
Can't have anything nice around here.
Man.
Here comes another helicopter.
I think it's the same one. It's probably landing right over there at the field.
We're gonna give it a second.
This is Outdoor Lore. Come outside with us as Andrew, Luke, and our family and friends go outside and create memories, stories, and traditions that will be passed down for generations. Welcome to Outdoor Lore. Outdoor Lore.
Outdoor Lore.
All right. So we're on. Thanks, babe. All right. Welcome to the Outdoor Lore podcast.
It's awesome.
Today's guest is Matt Lama, and I've got a little thing I wrote here. I'll try not to read off the phone a lot, but
Little introduction.
little introduction for you. Matt Lama is a husband, a father, follower of Christ, a local realtor, farmer, soccer coach, accomplished outdoorsman, and friend of our family. He's the kind of person to lift you when you're low and can be counted on to have a word of encouragement. He recently returned from an emergency short-term mission trip in North Carolina, working to restore the community affected by Hurricane Helene, and is here today to talk to us about it. So welcome to the Outdoor Lore podcast, Matt.
Awesome.
We miss
Welcome.
anything there?
No, that was
quite-
good. That was better than what I would have
Quite
been
an
able to put up.
accomplished list there.
That's an
That's
accomplished
good.
list. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you one of our three most accomplished podcast guests for sure.
Very, very flattering.
I think we can second that. Yeah.
Wait, no, 5. One of our 5
Sorry,
most
Jody and Eric.
accomplished podcast guests.
No, I appreciate it. I follow you guys. It's been awesome watching you guys continue to deliver some awesome content.
Yeah, we're trying.
Learning and growing little
Yeah.
by little.
Yeah.
So that mug is yours.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's one of 4 in circulation right now. The only way to get an Outdoor Lore podcast
This is awesome.
mug is to be me, Andrew, my wife Rebecca,
Oh
or
my-
come on our podcast.
Or a
Oh
guest
my
on the
gosh,
podcast.
This is
That's it.
awesome. Look
Yeah.
at that.
So we're happy to have you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Little product placement.
A little product placement. Well, it's not for sale, so it doesn't matter.
You're
if you
right.
want it,
You're
unless
right.
you've got something to say on our podcast.
You're right.
All right, so
Oh my god.
Cameras are getting smoked out already.
it's just smoked out.
It's fine.
It's all good. So a little background on kind of what we're going to talk about today is Hurricane Helene.
Yep.
And end of September of 2024, it's October of 2024 now,
It is.
there was a pretty significant hurricane,
Yeah.
Category 4, when it hit in Florida. And Florida didn't really have terrible damage considering.
Yeah.
But I think it was the 24th that it made landfall?
Something like that. Yeah.
And then a couple days later, it was in North Carolina, Tennessee, and Southwest Virginia, and it kind of just stopped there for 2 days.
Yeah.
And I don't know how expected that was or how common that is, but the
Not very.
results are extremely uncommon.
No.
Like a once in a generation kind of catastrophe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Once in a 100-year type occurrence. It was unreal.
Mm.
Yeah.
So after the hurricane hit, of course, you see all the shocking videos and images coming out of there.
Yeah.
And I think everybody I know or talked to was kind of stirred, like, what can we do?
Yeah.
How can we help? And I really appreciate you were stirred in a way that you responded almost as quick as you really could. Tell us, what led to you going down there? How did that come about?
Yeah, actually, so my father-in-law, Steve, you've met Steve. He's one of those guys where if you give him an idea, he goes 150 miles an hour down that idea.
Right.
And so we got a text on our family group chat, group text one evening, and it was random out of the blue, and he said, just, basically pray for me. I'm looking to get a group of guys to go to North Carolina and see what we can do to help out. Not much details were given, and I read that. 5-10 minutes later, I go downstairs. My wife is on her bed, and I asked her. I was like, "Is it too premature to just say I'm coming with you, Dad?" And she looked at me in the eye, and she was like, "I was thinking about the same thing." And Steve, he was like, "Matt, you got soccer, you got work and whatnot. I'll just put you on tentatively, coming tentatively." And I was like, no, I'll be coming. And we had an awesome group of guys. They capped us out. Actually, our sixth man, we had to tell them we couldn't bring him because they already had plenty of volunteers there. But we were there specifically to be on a chainsawing team.
Okay. What
And-
organization did you guys go down there with?
Steve got signed up through Samaritan's Purse.
Okay.
I've never actually experienced them before. I've heard of them. I've seen kind of what they've done, just a little bit. But he had gone through that not-for-profit and then connected our church, Grace Life Community Church, and helped get sponsored through that as well. And he kind of led the organization of our small group going down and going there for about a week, under a week.
So the logistics of that, like you guys got it together pretty quick. Like it was 2 weeks and you were down there. How
pretty
did that
fast.
work logistically? Because that seems like something that would take, I mean, generally we're a little slow to react and slow to move. It would take some time to get down there. How did you
Right.
guys get that together so quick?
Steve is highly organized, so he was making sure that there was correspondence of to Samaritan's Purse, and then with our church, we had so many calls, friends, co-workers who were like, "Hey, what can we do?"
Right.
They heard about us going, and so we're like, "What do you need?" And we had to kind of tell them, we're before we know what we need, we're trying to coordinate from Samaritan's Purse because we don't know if we're going to be carrying our trucks full of waters or toilet paper or whatnot or any additional gear. But Steve got the list basically from Samaritan's Purse, and then Grace Life was able to help support that. And us, most of our stuff we already had the supplies, chainsaws or extra, earplugs or whatnot.
Right.
And then some of it we didn't have. We had to get some extra. Again, the church really helped us out. The people of the church really helped out. And so we had our supplies kind of gathered pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then coordinating the ins and outs. We didn't know what to expect logistically because, of course, when we see stuff on social media, we're like, oh my gosh, all the houses are
Yeah.
torn down. They're all crumbled down. We're going to be staying out, living out of our car for the week. I was thinking more extreme
Yeah.
that way because I just didn't know. I've never been to Asheville. Always wanted to go.
You went specifically to Asheville?
I'm sorry?
You went specifically
Yes.
to Asheville?
Yes. And so we were packing as if we were going to be totally flexible.
Right.
If we needed to camp at a Walmart or wherever, sleep out of our truck, we will. We'll
Right.
do it with a great attitude. We'll figure that out. Sleeping bags, if we, tarps, whatever.
Right.
But the logistics kind of were finalized pretty decently. And when we got there, we stayed at Billy Graham's. They call it the Cove.
Okay.
And we were, in my opinion, we're a little spoiled there. I've been used to going on mission trips before. We were staying in rooms. We had hot showers. We had hot meals for breakfast and dinner, and then they allowed us to pack sandwiches for lunch.
Okay.
And we were grateful for that. That is not typical from what we've been told from Samaritan's Purse. You're usually staying in a church or a gym or wherever.
Right.
Again, being totally flexible when you serve people.
Yeah.
But we had a place to stay.
That's awesome.
And then they had gathered lists of job sites that we were going to, and we had some supervisors to help on site to help us with those job sites.
Very cool. Yeah, I was talking to Steve in church before you guys left, and I experienced him saying like, "No, we don't really need anything else."
Right.
I was like, "I've got a 4-wheeler, I got chainsaws, I got generators, I got what do you need? I got a big trailer. What can I give you to take?" And he's like, "I think we've got it all."
We were
So-
prepared to bring our tractors,
Yeah.
and they said, "Don't bring your tractors."
Right. Yeah.
But fully, like we were ready to throw down and do whatever
Right.
we could.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you guys were down there for a week, right?
So we got there. We left our house around like 4:00, maybe 3:30 in the morning on Monday, and I left after our job, one of the last jobs on Friday afternoon, and then the guys finished up another job after I left and headed out 6:00 Saturday morning.
Okay.
Not a full week, but Monday through Friday we were there.
And you said you were doing chainsaw work mostly.
Yeah.
So I guess kind of describe the devastation that you saw there. Like we see all of the pictures and videos,
Yeah, but what's the reality
is
of
that
it? Yeah.
you really can't believe anything that you see
Right.
100% on the media. So you don't know if they're talking about like that's a several square miles or if that's like a regional destruction like that. What did you actually see there?
So when I was driving down when we first were on the interstate, you started to see treetops, or trees falling on the interstate, and they were cut up. You got to see the start of the devastation. When I was there again, I only had social media to kind of show us how bad it was. When I got there, we didn't see in the areas that we were located. We didn't see devastation on the homes like that I had assumed or had seen online. You saw tarps on roofs, but in the neighborhoods that we were at or the houses that we were at, I didn't see any of them crumble down. As you drove further down, you did see some of these smaller bridges like wiped off.
Wow.
You saw the crossings. I remember seeing a number of smaller bridges just torn off. Yeah.
I think I was reading something where kind of the cause of that, or watched something. It's like once one bridge goes, now you've got a floating bridge that's taking out the next one, and then you got two taking out the third one. So it's one of those things where it compounds on itself.
Yeah, the river, when you're driving along the river, you can see the leaves, the evidence of how high the water was. It was a lot of water. Just in the smaller areas that we drove through, I'm like, golly, that the water alone, the amount of force that came in during those days, it had to have been unreal.
So
they said like 19 inches in 2 days. And then you think like all of the land is like
and
this.
then,
Yes.
And then
so you've got 19 inches falling on all of those hillsides,
Yes.
funneling down.
and then
it's tremendous.
regionally more in some places.
And I'm constantly amazed by the power of water. Like
Grand Canyon.
you think about like water, it's like something that's necessary for life.
Yep.
It's also, is it the most destructive force in nature?
It's one of
got to be,
So-
right?
so
Like,
dangerous.
that's the way the world was destroyed the first time.
Yeah.
Like that's number one pick. Like let's flood it.
Yep.
So the force of water is just incredible.
It's scary stuff.
Like, and I'm scared like with my kids around water. Like it's just the most destructive, I think.
Well, the wind also. We all are outdoorsmen. So when you're going through the mountains, we've been through beautiful, lush hardwood trees, and some of the mountains in these areas, the trees are snapped off halfway. Not all of them, but like a lot. And you're just looking at it, snap like toothpicks. And these aren't trees that are just like 6, 12 inches. Some of the trees are 80, 100-year-old trees, and they're huge. You know.
They said it spawned tornadoes too.
Yeah.
So
It's crazy.
There had to have.
yeah, I've seen some tornado damage, even like with very minor Virginia tornadoes. That same kind of thing where oak trees just broken right in half.
Yeah.
It's incredible, the
So
power of nature.
It's obviously going to be like a many year-long recovery to full recovery.
Oh yeah.
But I guess my biggest question coming into this was, and you kind of already alluded to it, but like, how do you even start? Like, it's such a giant mess of pain and suffering and damage everywhere. It's like, what's the first thing that you attack? Is it chainsawing and clearing pathways to everything?
It had to have. We weren't there week one. We were there, I don't know, 2-3 weeks after it happened. And so we're driving down. We didn't go to an area where the roads were all blocked off by trees. Everything, all the roads that we had been on were all clear, but you saw cut off trees on each side of the road. The neighborhoods there, same thing. We a lot of people had already got a jump start on that. So you have to keep in mind, electrical lines are still down in certain areas. We were driving over some electrical lines. Before some of the infrastructure can even be repaired, you have to clear the roads.
Right. And to get to people that are trapped, that need
like
to get out.
step one is get roads clear, I guess.
Yeah.
Because you can't get any help until you can get through.
Yeah, so clearing was, I guess, had to have been one of the first steps, and then getting the electrical. I'm sure roads and electrical are probably the next go-to, just so you can get the absolute bare necessities to these homeowners. We didn't experience that side, but we can see how that would have been a part of all of it. Yeah, it was on one side. I'm sorry, one of our jobs, I think it was on Tuesday. We had driven through in between a mountain range, or two mountain ranges, and they're running parallel, and we're at the base kind of.
Here comes a helicopter.
We'll cut it out.
Okay.
Helicopter going over.
So,
All right, one of your jobs.
so one of our first jobs, we were actually, I think it was on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And we were driving down, we had mountains on each side, and we're kind of at a little bit of a base of the mountain. And we're driving, and you see on one side of the mountain, I mean, the wind had to have hit that side of the mountain. That's where all these trees were snapped off. I mean, again, not every single one, but enough to be like, there was a lot of destruction.
Yeah.
And then on the other, not as bad, but still some. And some areas we saw that some areas were affected tremendously by either tornadoes or wind, and other areas, maybe not as much. I can only imagine the devastation, that actually occurred within those couple of days. And
Danger. Careful, you're gonna burn yourself.
is it?
Oh,
Oh, here we go. There you go. On this one too.
Live action,
Careful.
house burning down. Don't burn yourself.
Don't burn yourself.
Unbelievable.
Jeez, just can't do anything right.
Can't have anything nice around here.
Man.
Here comes another helicopter.
I think it's the same one. It's probably landing right over there at the field.
We're gonna give it a second.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what we're talking about.
So we just finished up the first job site.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, devastation bridges. I only saw one area where the street had, the slab of the street, a small portion may have gotten run off by the water. We had one neighborhood, one of our last jobs, one of our neighborhoods that we drove through. I get to the end of this pipe stem or the end of this neighborhood, and it continued on, but you can tell that their area where they put, I guess, culverts in the ground pretty down low, and these were big ones, like 3 or 4 of them about this big, but that area got washed off, and so Samaritan's Purse had actually did a makeshift bridge, and they filled some of the area with dirt. They laid logs down so people can drive through, and filled it in with some gravel and some more dirt, just so it would be okay to drive on.
And that was Samaritan's Purse that did that?
From what we were told,
Gotcha.
allegedly. I don't know.
Allegedly.
So talk to us a little bit about Samaritan's Purse. Like you said, we don't really know a whole lot about them.
They do Operation Christmas Child.
We
with
know
the
that,
Christmas
yeah.
boxes. That's
So
the biggest thing.
One
I think.
thing, like everybody's kind of looking for their little way to help. The one thing that we did is we had an order of hats, and all the profits from our hats is being donated.
I think we
to
just
Samaritan's Purse.
sold the last one yesterday, day before.
Yeah,
so we'll
so-
get that donation in here shortly, which will
But
be good.
we've heard nothing but good things, especially since this happened. So talk to us a little bit about Samaritan's Purse, what you saw, what you experienced, what you know about them, how it seemed to run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were highly organized.
Okay.
Everybody that I talked to was a volunteer. From what we were told, there were only 3 paid employees on site, but all I saw were orange shirt Samaritan Purse volunteers. Highly organized. We had people coming in that were day volunteers.
Okay.
And so we had to get them through orientation. Not me, but they had to get them through orientation. They had to get shirts for them, and we were not the day volunteers. We're there for the whole week, so we got our list basically, and we were able to go out. But we saw volunteer staff. I don't know what you call it. Volunteers to help get the new people in, get them oriented, and then out to the job sites. And then we had volunteers helping out with meals. We had volunteers, the supervisors. We had Ricky and Joe. They were hilarious. They ragged on us the whole trip. It was a lot of fun.
As
We
they
loved
should,
it.
right?
Yeah, oh man, it was great. And they kept everything very structured, organized. We got our list of job sites that we were trying to tackle. and Joe or Ricky would lead and get coordinated with the homeowner. Every homeowner that we worked with got a Bible that we all individually got to sign and give some words of encouragement, and then give to the owner at the end of every job, and then we got to pray with the
fantastic.
homeowner.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Sometimes the homeowners would open up a little bit more, sometimes not, and but volunteers all around. This trip, from what was told to us, was a little different because it was at Billy Graham's Cove. They call it the Cove. More like an event
Facility.
facility.
Yeah.
Yes. And so they had their staff there helping us with our rooms and checking in, or a front desk to help
As a
within
hub.
direction. Yes. Yes.
So is Samaritan's Purse sort of localized to that area?
To be honest, I actually don't know. I heard
They have, we'll put it down there, but
Yeah.
they have a facility right there?
to my knowledge, I believe so.
Okay.
I believe so. This trip was a lot different because it was more of a home base setup in Asheville or
Okay.
in North Carolina. I could be wrong, but
Okay.
but from my understanding, from what was told to us, yes, a
Okay.
little bit more of a home base. From what was kind of told to us.
So as far as, it sounds like it was extremely efficient, organized, a pretty well-oiled machine.
Yes, and I've talked to a lot of people when we were down there. Everyone says nothing but great stuff about their organization. Just very well organized when it comes to the logistics of the projects, the jobs, and the volunteers.
I was just talking with Steve about this a little bit this morning, and like the power of everybody kind of pulling in the same direction, working for the same ultimate supervisor.
Yeah.
Like, our God is a God of order, and with everybody there with the same general worldview, maybe different beliefs and different doctrines, but the same general worldview,
Yeah.
like falling into line underneath the directions of our God. Like, that's pretty cool to see, like, order fall into chaos.
Yeah.
And order in the most chaotic place that you could ever imagine. Like, almost, it's not like war torn, but like war level destruction in places down there.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
that's pretty cool. It sounded, from what he was describing, almost like the Chick-fil-A of charities. Like, everything's so
Hyper
organized.
efficient. Yeah.
Yeah.
It seemed that way. When we were down there, we knew exactly what we needed to do. We knew where to go, and we just did what they told us to do. We got the job done, and it seemed like everybody else did
That's
the
the way
same
it should be.
thing.
Very little red tape. Just
Yes.
here's what you need.
Yeah.
Here's what is needed to go do. Go do it. That's the way to be.
And everybody was 100% in. Everybody
Yeah.
wanted to do what they were what needed to do to help out the
Yeah,
community.
people there to work.
Yep.
Yeah. No,
Very
Yeah.
mission oriented.
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So people coming from all around, I'm imagining. Like, who did you see there? Like, what kind of people were there? Like, were you only working with the Samaritan's Purse? Were there other agents? Or
A lot of local
other-
churches probably,
not
and
agencies, but other like charities on the ground that were doing things?
federal support.
So a lot of individuals coming down, churches.
Yep.
We saw Park Valley actually in Haymarket, I believe, and we got to talk with some of the people there. We heard people down from Georgia or Tennessee, and Kentucky was another one, and it seemed like a lot of people from outside, and a lot of people during the day were more local or from Charlotte. A young guy was from the Charlotte area, recently out of college, maybe a year or two out of college, and he came just for the day. We had one day, I think it was Wednesday, they had day volunteers from college students who were taking a day out of their fall break to come and help. Like, it was very much impressive, very impressive. We had I think it was Friday, I saw a bunch of guys and gals wearing Lowe's vests, and so I pulled one aside. I was like, "How many are in your squad are a part of this volunteer session today?" Today, and they said I think there was about 25 Lowe's employees who had come out to help out. From a lot of the Samaritan's Purse volunteers who have been, we'll call them veterans.
Yeah.
They had said this was probably one of the best community involvements when it came to volunteers than almost any other trip. I think one person said this was the biggest community volunteer numbers that they had seen. There's been some hurricanes or disaster events where the community didn't have as much involvement.
Right.
Not a lot of people would get involved to help out. This one, it seemed like there was an influx.
Well, it was so unprecedented because it was a mountain town. It wasn't a beach town, a Gulf town,
Right.
where they have a better infrastructure
Yep.
and they're more ready to respond to stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like a snowstorm in the south. It hits way different when you don't have the infrastructure ready to
Right.
attack it.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So
Point.
Yeah.
So,
very unprecedented.
what kind of things did you learn down there? Not just about like maybe you learned a new way to use a chainsaw or whatever. I don't really care about that. But like, what did you learn about yourself or about other people, about the community from your trip down there?
The Lord.
The Lord. Yeah. What did you learn about the Lord?
So we, my parents had gotten into short-term mission trips when I was in middle school, high school, and my mom was involved with missionary organization based in South Africa. And so we had, like, for me individually, going in, it was easy to kind of get into that short-term mission trip mentality. I personally have a Martha, I don't know what you call it, a very Martha approach. So
Okay.
it's easy for me to do the work, and like Martha and Mary, easy for me to just do the work, and
You might need to give the listeners a background on
Or
Martha.
so-
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, we get
but,
it.
So-
but give some context to that.
In the New Testament, there's a story where Mary and Martha are with Jesus, and Mary apparently is having a conversation. She's sitting down with Jesus and having meaningful
Right.
conversation, relationship
Right.
conversation. And then you have Martha on the other side. She's like getting all ready. She's trying to make the house perfect for Jesus, and she's the Son of God, and doing the dishes, doing whatever she's doing.
Right.
Overly busy being
Overly
hospitable.
busy, yes.
Versus
And-
worshiping.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's almost my interpretation. I'm not a scholar. I'm not a theologian, but my interpretation is like get to the relationship
Right.
side of things. All the work will eventually get done, but let's touch the hearts. And so it's easy for me individually to get into a Martha mentality.
Yeah.
You tell me what I need to do, let's just do it.
Yeah, like type A doers. Like
Yes.
I have the same kind of thing where it's like there's a problem. Let me go fix that problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you miss the person sometimes. when you
Right,
do
for
that.
sure.
And that's how it was when it was working. When we were working with us 5 guys.
Yeah.
And get the work done and whatnot. My moment individually was actually not on site,
Okay.
and I think it was Thursday night. I'm like shaking because I'm a little nervous. There was a lady there. Her name was.
Okay.
I won't ever forget her. And my one of the guys on our team, Jeff, he was sitting next to me. The other 3 guys had gone out to bed. It was getting late. People were still in our room, in the congregation room. We were in a small little fireplace setup, and all of a sudden, this older lady sits down next to us. And I don't know how we started talking with her. Everybody's asking, hey, where you from? What do you, what's your involvement here and whatnot. And again, this is off-site. This is on our base, home base, I guess, at the Cove. And we start this dialogue with this lady, and she's pouring out her heart, opening up. And Jeff and I are just 2 dudes, just sitting on a couch, and for whatever reason, this lady's opened up of how hard of a year she's gone through, and really tough. A really tough story with her and her family. she was opening up, and I'm surprised how much. She was saying that one of her kids ended up having an affair with her other kid's husband, you know, 2 daughters, and how that affected her family as a whole. And she's just opening up, and we're just listening. And so she's opening up. She was sharing. She was feeling a little depressed this year, you know, and rightfully so. And I firmly believe that God had placed us there to not only listen, but maybe encourage and then to pray for her. And hearing this, it was heartbreaking stuff, right? And as we're listening, we have an opportunity to just give some words of encouragement. Hopefully, it was words of encouragement, and a few verses that had helped us, and we shared that with her. And I got to share a story with my grandfather, not similar scenario, but with my grandfather, and basically hope there that things could get eventually better. And then another story of somebody else I knew, and I offered to pray for her. And Jeff and I, we had prayed for Ann. And you know, it touched me in a way where it's like storms happen not only at the natural state, not only in the disaster state, they happen in our individual lives. And I'm going to venture to say that we individually have our own storms that come and go in our lives. And with her, a storm had occurred. And we just don't know what individuals are going through. We can all have our smiles on our faces. We all can say, "Hey, I'm fine." That's easy for me. That's my go-to.
Right.
You can look at me and you think Matt Lama, he's doing great. Well, you know, I appear to look great. I am doing fine. I'm doing just fine. But at times in my life, I'm not.
Right.
And I would venture to say that's with a lot of us.
Yeah.
And but the storms in our life, that it made me realize or be reminded of a couple things. And again, I'm shaking. I'm a little nervous. With every single storm, the sun always shines. Every single storm that we have ever experienced, the sun always shines right after. It may be a little bit of time. It may be drawn out. It may be short. But there's light at the end.
Yeah.
Right? The other thing is the importance of community is so needed in today's society. You see the community outreach in Asheville.
Yeah.
Why in the world Asheville? Like, people are coming from out of the state to come in and help. But that shouldn't just be after a natural disaster. That should be like in our neighborhoods.
Right.
When somebody's going through stuff, where's the community? You're a lot stronger with, you know, a number of individuals in your lives.
Yeah.
How can you help people, and how can people help you?
Right.
We all have our needs, but we're a lot stronger as a unit. You know.
Sure.
The other thing I learned was going into helping people. We've got to take the time to help. And I'm not saying sacrifice all your time. We're all, you know, we all have our priorities. We have our jobs. We have our families. We have our wife and kids, but we have to take the time to help people because people need it.
Yeah.
And the last thing that my takeaway, the last thing that I was, I'm reminded, and I need this reminder. I need to tell myself every single day is that after the storm, after any destruction, whether it's a community, whether it's in Asheville, whether it's in our lives, in our marriages, with our kids, as bad as stuff can be, God can always rebuild way better than we realize after every storm.
Yeah.
He can rebuild, he can reinforce, he can redeem. And at times I lose sight of that.
Yeah. I think everybody does.
This year I've gone through a number of storms in my life, and that's a reminder for me. But if you were to ask me, what's my takeaways, those things really stuck out.
It's a big one. Yeah.
Something that strikes me with what you just told me is like this lady, Anne, just experienced the storm of a generation, and it's not what was affecting her. Right?
Right.
Like she's in the midst of a generational storm in natural discussion, like
Right.
a hurricane of consequence. But what affected her was something in her personal life.
Yeah.
And
That was the help she needed.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe you
Yeah.
were there to cut down trees, but maybe not.
Right.
Like maybe the trees that you were cutting were just the reason that they got you there.
Right.
You know, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I really resonate with that. Like, growing up and in years past, I've always struggled with showing compassion the way that I should, because admittedly I had a very easy, cush life with nothing that ever really went wrong. And then you have, as you go through your life, stuff that does go wrong, like you said, or trials or storms, as you call them. And like when you actually are down and out and going through something, it made me personally try to be intentionally kinder.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like you said, I just met you. I don't know what's going on in your life. I should, because of that, intentionally love you and intentionally try to be kind and show you the love of Christ. Because I don't know what's going on in your life. You came in with a big smile, but it's very easy to put a big smile on your face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're going through
Right.
the stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
point.
yeah, I really resonate with that.
Let's pause, just check,
Okay.
make sure everything's going.
Okay.
Refill our coffees, and then
I'm gonna go pee.
maybe a couple more questions.
All right, we're on job site. As you can see, got everybody working. This place was filled with trees. They need to see if you cut it. That all was blocked. Absolutely nuts.
Samaritan's purse is a great purse, phenomenal purse, full of great people, hardworking people, American people who have given up their jobs, their time, lots of money, in hopes to rebuild Asheville. I've built lots of villas, I've built millions of villas, and I've got to say, it's a great ville, Asheville, North Carolina.
All right, we're back.
We're back.
So, one more question that I have is, people talk about like once in a generation storms, once in 500-year storms.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it happened last year doesn't mean it doesn't have the same statistical probability of happening again next year.
Right.
It doesn't reset like that.
Right.
So, we will have more big storms like this. Any tips from your experience down there of things that individuals in communities that don't expect stuff like that to happen in their lifetime that they should do to prepare, whether that be just general provisions or plans? What do you have for us in that sense?
Like, did it change anything that you do to make sure that your family is safe and secure and prepared for?
I mean, seeing this is I mean, this is tough because there's two sides of it. I got my stubborn side where I'm like, it's just a rain, just a pouring down rain. And then there's a side of me where I probably would have just packed up my family and stayed at a Airbnb until it blew over. But if we're hunkering down, I want to make sure, generator's huge. Having the ability to keep, the fridge cold. We can get by putting on layers at our house, if it gets too cold, but having a generator is huge. Food provisions, we try to have some. We're not in a prepper mindset.
Right.
But we try to be all right.
Yeah.
And having skills to just problem solve. That's a bulk of it. I wish people knew how to do stuff.
Right.
Figure out, how to stop leaks, how to stop water from coming in, how to, troubleshoot. We live on septic and well. Try to troubleshoot. If the power's out, but the well is still hooked up, how do we get the well to run? Or if the septic is failing, well, what do we do? What do we do with that? But provisions wise, I having the tools. I having the tools needed, knowing how to hunt, gather food, worst case scenario. I mean, we live 45, 50 minutes away from DC, but if something were to happen, I want to be able to still provide from getting food for my family.
I don't want to, of course the goal is never to bash anybody, but something that seems very apparent from this, that's incredibly annoying. Something
I'll filter it out, don't you worry.
Incredibly important is to just know that help's maybe not coming. It's a miracle that help was there based on the location of Samaritan's purse and that people were able to get there because it was localized. But I mean, help is not coming for you.
Right.
So being able to take care of yourself, having neighbors that you trust and you can rely on.
Yeah.
A little bit of a plan.
Something just in case it goes bad,
Yeah.
knowing what you're going to do, even if that's tabletopping it with your family or your friends. What happens if, maybe Andrew and I haven't talked and I say, oh, things are bad here, I'm going to head down to Andrew's. And he says, oh man, things are bad here, I'm going to head up to Luke's.
Right.
Don't come to mine, I'll come to yours.
Right. It's important to have some sort of plan, some sort of mindset that you are your own first responder. You are the one that's got to take care of your family and your people.
Right.
Because help's not coming.
Right. Well, that goes into I want to be conscious of where I'm going with this. I can't rely on government, whether it's local or federal, to come and save me.
Right.
I prefer not. I like relying on the community that's around me.
Well, the way you described Samaritan's Purse, imagine the response if you put 1,500 government employees and said, go solve this problem. Well, it wouldn't happen anywhere near as effectively or smoothly as 1,500 volunteers that had essentially no training.
Right.
Showing up, but working for, right? Imagine having 1,500 government employees showing up and trying to do something.
Right.
No, you're going to have so much command structure and bureaucracy that nothing's ever going to get done.
Yeah. Right.
You're going to have 14 committees before you have a chainsaw started. So, and again, I don't want to bash on the government.
We're going down a rabbit
Let's get out of that.
I've got so many things to say.
What I'm saying is, you've got to be able to handle your own problems. And being comfortable and confident in that, I think, is one, it's what you're called to be able to do as the protector of your family.
Right.
That is your responsibility. And two, it's just smart.
Right.
It's your duty, and it's the best thing is to be able to take care of yourself.
Yeah, and community is huge in that. So if stuff hits the fan, you have to have a number of individuals that are close that you can trust, like you guys had said, where you guys can hunker down, a little bit of a plan, and then I would add where some of you have different skills that you can help in any situation. You know, I've got, I got mechanic friends or people that know mechanics or machinery, electrical people, anything from military. Like I've got networks of people, and I put myself in community of friends where we're able to kind of help and distribute some skills if needed. Is it highly organized? No, it isn't, but I have individuals that we can call upon if stuff were to hit the fan, and there's mutual responsibility in a community.
The point is like having a community that you can rely on,
that's
being
key.
a part of that community that others can rely on you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Because you can't know everything. You can't be prepared for everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you can have friends.
Or a brother who's a surgeon.
Or brothers who's a surgeon, or whatever it is that you do.
That medical field also.
Yeah.
We know a few people. My wife's a nurse, and she's been out of it for a couple of years, but she has that background.
The human body hasn't changed in the past few years.
They're just practicing anyways.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah. Never trust anybody whose day at work is called practice.
Yeah.
Never trust a lawyer because they're practicing law.
Also,
never trust a doctor because they're practicing medicine. You wouldn't show up and practice real estate.
Yeah, I'm practicing engineering.
You're a professional.
Yeah. Jake's screwed if it hits the fan. He's not getting out of where he is. He's toast.
Unless we go get him.
I told him to buy a John boat and hop on the Potomac and cruise down the coast.
The same thing.
Yeah.
So, you got any plans of going back there?
I don't know if Asheville, if they still need some help. I was talking with Steve, and before we went, I made sure to text him. I was like, listen, when there's another trip, whenever this is, if you're going, please let me know. I'd like to be top on your list for invites.
Yeah.
And I will argue that stuff like this is good for everyone to go into. I think if you decide to go on a trip like this, you have to be completely flexible.
Yeah.
You may be uncomfortable sleeping in a bed for a week, and you have to be okay with that. You may not get the meals that you are preferring. You have to be okay with that. You may get muddy and in sewage or whatever. I'm just thinking extreme.
But it's just not about you.
It is not about you in the mission field. And we're on the mission field every day. But when we're going out of our homes into somewhere else, we have to throw our self out of the equation. And say, hey, what are we here for? How can we help? And how do we, at the same time, how do we share God's truth and love with these individuals?
Right.
Yeah.
Which is super important.
Yeah, I've heard that Asheville is recovering pretty well, but not so much the smaller communities around Asheville. Did you see folks stemming out from that major hub there to the smaller localities? Because there's tons of little mountain towns.
There is.
And trailers up in the mountains of people intentionally living somewhat off the grid, but that are suffering the same thing without the same level of publicity.
Yep.
Did you see folks going to find and assist those smaller communities and individuals?
I heard of some people going through some more back roads and clearing them out.
Yeah.
We've heard of the helicopter shipments that they would drop off, and the volunteer helicopter pilots that would come in. We did not see those firsthand.
Okay.
There was not a way to either prioritize or select these jobs. So wherever we went, we were going to serve. It didn't matter how wealthy or poor the individual was.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if they were on one side or the other in a political, sign.
Yeah.
How do I say that? It didn't matter.
Yeah,
It didn't matter their political views. If they had to sign up for whoever, we were serving them.
Yeah.
And
Your fellow American.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
People
I was
in need.
thinking about this. I was talking to this guy Joe, and our volunteer supervisor, and he was like, "Look, Jesus did not side with red or blue, And I went in my mind, I'm like, you're right.
Jesus wasn't a Republican.
The color of the king back then was purple.
That's right.
That's royalty, right?
That's right.
And a combination of those, that's purple. So, I don't know. But going back to your question, like we didn't get to see far out. All our job sites were anywhere from 21 to 25 minutes away.
Yeah.
So we were on one side of town, then we would cut over to the other and serve whoever filled out the order request. And I thought there was like around 1,000 order requests, and we had served somewhere between 300 to 400. I could be wrong. I could be wrong on that. I thought that's what was communicated.
In a week, that's pretty dang good.
Yeah. I don't know if it was that week or if it was a couple weeks up until then.
Even so,
yeah,
that's
like you're making tangible progress.
Yeah, that's putting a dent in it.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Yeah,
well, that's awesome. Anything we haven't asked you about, like your trip, or anything else you want to communicate or say about it?
Man, I came home and I told Christina, I was like, I would like to do something like this at least once a year. And whether
hopefully we don't have another hurricane.
No.
Hopefully you don't need to. But
we want one hurricane that's going to come through a town. No, that's
just
not
stop on a town so that I can come down there and stop.
No, we don't want any of these natural disasters, of course. But whether it's a natural disaster or a short-term mission trip or something, it's very much eye-opening to the reality of our world. We're kind of insulated in this Northern Virginia area, and we forget what's outside. Mm-hmm. And I've been to short-term mission trips in West Virginia or North Carolina, and then again North Carolina for this last trip. I would hope to go again. I would hope that people would want to get in line with something like this as well. I think Samaritan's Purse is a great intro to the mission field. Very simple, job task oriented, and you do have an opportunity to talk with the owner most of the time. And
the owner of the property.
Not of the owner of Samaritan's Purse. The owner of the property.
Well, I mean, you can talk to him every day. I think. I think that's God. So.
But I think it's a great intro.
Yeah.
But I think people, especially believers, we're here to spread God's word, and sometimes through acts of service, you have that opportunity.
Awesome.
And building relationships, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see a lot of the outpouring of the gospel where folks, did you see anyone very willing to receive and ears to hear down there at all?
There was a couple days, I want to say, that people had accepted
Praise God.
Christ.
Yeah.
And they have a number. If you go to their website, there's I think there's a section where it shows, X amount of people decided to follow Christ.
Wow.
Some of the owners, at least I don't want to assume, but it seems they talked
right
as if they were, they were there.
Yeah.
I think right now, when it's sensitive, I think people are receptive to that.
Yeah.
I was talking with somebody. I didn't have the opportunity to share with him, but one of the owners that we went, we helped clear his yard, and he's opening up also, and he was sharing with me how 3 of his friends had died during that hurricane.
Wow.
He shared with me how his friend woke up with water coming into his house. He apparently got his friend got his pets, went upstairs, and the last thing that they knew, the house was gone. Mm. And he didn't share about the other 2 friends, but you're listening to him. And I think a lot of people had experienced that. And in those moments of trauma, you have an opportunity. People, I think, can go either way. People can go and get angry at God for these natural disasters, and God made this happen. Well, that's a longer conversation, but they can put the blame on God and get angry and hardened.
Right.
Or they can swing the other way and say, I've got nothing.
Right.
I can go in an instant.
Yeah.
And
it seems like the greatest witness too, like you said, the acts. Like, who showed up? The people of God showed up.
Yeah.
Like, that is not just you, not just Steve, not just like a group of people, but who showed up when it mattered.
Yeah.
Right, and that says a lot.
Yeah.
So,
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on, talking with us about
this was awesome.
what you did. We appreciate that you did it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
On a lighter note, everybody that comes on our podcast gets the opportunity to shoot my bow.
Oh my
and we
gosh.
have, like, you ever watch Top Gear?
I have. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Remember how they used to do the track times?
Okay.
Okay. So you don't get to ride around my yard with a car or anything.
Okay.
But the closest to the center goes on the board. We've
Oh my
only had
gosh.
one person do
the
it
bow
so
board.
far.
Yep.
But it's the bow board.
You should have told me to bring my bow. I had my bow at my
See,
house.
That's the thing. That's the thing. That's a disadvantage to everybody
Oh
else.
my gosh.
Yep. So you got to
Okay.
shoot my bow, 35 yards,
Okay.
Yep.
which
Oh,
means
man.
you got to
So-
split a pin,
Intentionally split pin.
intentionally split pin,
You get one shot to warm up
Oh my
from
gosh.
whatever distance you want.
and
Oh
then
my
you send
gosh.
it if you're up to it.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, you're on the spot and you're on camera, so you're up to it.
I'll try
So,
it.
all
I'll
right.
try it. Yeah.
Well,
All right.
we really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
And
And thank you for going down.
Yeah.
We would definitely be interested in doing stuff like that in the future,
Yeah.
as much as
Yeah.
possible.
So-
Especially now that we're both locally living near each other to go
Yeah.
Yeah.
go and do and serve stuff like that.
all right.
So
Thanks
Awesome.
for coming on.
I appreciate it.
I'm
Yeah.
not gonna shake your hand, but I'll give you. Oh, okay, you lean all the way over. Thank you. All right, let's go shoot a bow.
So something like this. Very easy.
Yes.
This was. Can I pay for this?
No, absolutely not. That's the gift. All right, today's guest on the bow board is Matt Lama. He's going to shoot my bow at 35 yards. He gets one to warm up,
Man.
and then one for the board. So get out of his way and see what he can do. Just so you know, your competition's got about 4.5 inches.
All right, this is the official shot.
This is for all the marbles. All right.
Oh, I plucked that
got
too.
it on, you got
I
it on
felt
the board.
it.
You got it on the board. Good job.
That
Good
arrow
job.
flew really weird.
No, I plucked that. Oh man.
Well, let's go down there and measure it.
I'm embarrassed.
And you know what? You're in the top two.
I'm
Don't be embarrassed.
That's lame.
No, don't worry about it. We need Becca to come down here
I
still.
got this one.
Okay. All right.
This is embarrassing.
You're in second place.
So last time when we did it, we couldn't find a tape measure without unlocking the truck.
Okay.
So we've just got this, and this is our official measuring stick. So let's see. We go from the center to the pin, to the arrow. We're gonna give you 10 3/4.
Oh my gosh.
That's not bad.
That's a strong second place.
That's not bad. It's the bow you're not used to.
We sprung it
Bonus.
on you.
You didn't ruin any of my arrows, I think. So congratulations on your second place on the bow board. Until our next guest.
Oh my gosh. I want a chance to redeem myself.
Well, you'll
So-
get
You have to
another
come
chance.
back.
So we'll just put this part right at the end of the podcast. But if people want to see more Matt Lama, where do they go?
Oh my gosh. I'm on Instagram. So we have two businesses, Grace Haven Farm VA. My wife runs that. And then I'm the local llama on Instagram also. And we like to have fun and throw in a little business as well.
Beautiful. Thanks
All
for
right,
coming on.
thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming
Appreciate
on.
it.
Appreciate it. All right.
Oh, I plucked that
You got
too.
enough- you got